ॐ तव कथामृतं तप्तजीवनं कविभिरीडितं कल्मषापहं शरवणमङ्गलं श्रीमदाततं भुवि वदन्ति भूरिदा जनाः. Your words are like nectar, bring life to scorched souls. They are praised by poets and remove all sin. They are auspicious to hear, wonderful and exalted. Those who spread these words throughout the world are truly giving souls. Welcome to our class on the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. We are on the chapter, the Master's Birthday, and the page is 700, and the date is Wednesday, February 25th, 1885. And this is actually taking place. Sri Ramakrishna, if you go to the page before, was at the house of Girish Ghosh in Voshpara Lane, and it was about 3 o'clock when M arrived, and they were going to see a play at the Star Theater. And it simply says that Sri Ramakrishna is talking to one of the devotees. I'll go back. This is the last paragraph we read. Since one cannot easily get rid of the ego, a bhakta does not explain away the states of waking, dream, and deep sleep. He accepts all the states. Further, he accepts the three gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas. A bhakta sees that God alone has become the 24 cosmic principles, the universe, and all living beings. He also sees that God reveals himself to his devotees in a tangible form, which is the embodiment of spirit. Sometimes the descriptions that we get of the Vijnani and the descriptions of the Bhakta are the same also. They're seeing God everywhere. Everything is a manifestation of the divine. So that's where we ended last time. The Bhakta takes shelter under Vidya Maya. He seeks holy company, goes on pilgrimage, and practices discrimination, devotion, and renunciation. He says that since a man cannot easily get rid of his ego, he should let the rascal remain as the servant of God, the devotee of God. This is one of the important teachings of Sri Ramakrishna. We come across these terms, this Vidya Maya and Avidya Maya. This Vidya Maya is almost what we would say is contradiction in terms. Maya means ignorance, Vidya means knowledge. So it's Ramakrishna's way of explaining that within this relative world, and we can, by Maya, we can just take it as this relative universe with all good and bad and ups and downs and everything that takes place, all different types of people and everything. Within this relative universe, there will be certain things that will be helpful for us in our spiritual life and will lift us up, and there'll be certain things that will either drag us down or keep us from going higher. So that'll be tamas and rajas, and then the sattva will take us a bit higher. So if we dismiss everything, we want to only rely on God. We don't want to put our faith in anything of the world. If we want to be fanatical like that, then there'll be a lot of helpful things that we won't be able to utilize. If we are only willing to take sat and forget about asat, the real, and only rely on that which is unchanging and eternal, and that which is transitory and transient, if we simply dismiss it, that this belongs to Maya, then we'll be in the situation of the person who gets a splinter in his foot, steps on a thorn, it goes in, and this person says, the problem is the thorn. I refuse to use another thorn to get rid of the first thorn because the problem is the thorn. So reasoning is good, but the thorn is still in the foot. So it's not practical. With Sri Ramakrishna, this idea of Vidya Maya is very, very practical, that it will allow us to utilize all sorts of positive things that may be based on this idea of Maya, say this idea of ego. We have this belief in Vedanta, conviction, that this ego is the source of problems, that this pride and anger, all of these things, that they come from basically because we have this ego problem. So if the ego is the problem, then we have to get rid of the ego. But it's almost impossible to do it. So Sri Ramakrishna says that utilize these things. You look at it from a positive point of view. That'll be Vidya Maya. Look at it from a positive point of view, and it can help remove the negative side of things. So the jnani has to rely solely on that which is fully real. That means which is has nothing to do with Maya, which is unchanging, which is the ultimate reality, which is the real nature of the self. David, he can utilize the changing and part of Maya in nature of the lower self. So the devotee can practice this transformation from the lower to the higher. The jnani has to start with the higher from the very beginning. So this is what Sri Ramakrishna is saying, that we can, if we follow this path of devotion, then we can see that everywhere we look, there can be a reminder of the divine for us. See, we see this visible universe, and either we say that this is Maya, that it's the source of attachment, that it's going to drag the mind down to the world, it's going to keep us from thinking of God, or we can say that everything I see reminds me of the divine. So sometimes they say that one is the path of neti neti and the other iti iti. We read this term. Neti neti, of course, is universally accepted, but this other idea, from the very beginning, we try to see divinity everywhere. And we try to allow everything to be a source of help for us in spiritual life. So it's a very positive type of thing. As I say, there's a little bit of a paradox to it, that which is belongs to Maya, and Maya not just as cosmic ignorance, but Maya as this whole relative universe, everything changeful. That physical body belongs to Maya. All of these, that it allows us to see, to let that take us to the higher type of truth. And everything for Sri Ramakrishna depends on the state of the mind. If the ego is the source of the problem, and we can't get rid of it, then we have to allow this ego to be something helpful for us. If we can eliminate this ego, then we'll be thrown into some type of higher state of awareness. Short of going into that state of samadhi, or falling asleep, this ego is functioning even for the jnani. So the jnani will have this ego, the sense of I, which is identified with Brahman or with the higher self, whatever. So as long as this sense of I is there, as Sri Ramakrishna is telling us, then we should utilize it. We should utilize it and form a relationship. So this is one of his main teachings, that the gap between the reality and the facts of life. Reality is this ego has no substance to it. Fact is we can't get rid of it, and that it has a power over us that cannot be explained except through Maya somehow. We can't really explain it. How the sense of the ego comes. And the ego also means pride. Yeah. When we use this term ego, it has these two meanings, philosophical meaning and also this pride that comes, ahangara. Right? So, or abhiman, this other idea, how easily we're offended. Abhiman means we have the type of ego that can easily be offended. So Sri Ramakrishna says, the Bhakta says, since a man cannot easily get rid of the ego, that means him. That this is his special teaching. That you can deny it, and at the same time, who is it that's denying it? Me. I can, day and night, I can say I don't have any ego, and I can be very proud of it. I can be very proud that I have no ego. So what is that? Perfect contradiction. The perfect contradiction. I'm proud of yes, I'm proud of my humility. Yeah. So so this ego is a very tricky thing. A very tricky thing. We think we've gotten rid of it, and it comes back and it bites us. Yeah. Spiritual pride also can come like that. So the Bhakta takes shelter under Vidya Maya. Thakur uses this type of language that ashrakara, that we have to really. This is the aid that we get. Even the holy company, all of these things fall under Vidya Maya. It's part of this relative universe. We can say that there's only one real self in this world. Why talk about other people? Then what does that mean? Then we don't take the help of other people. It's almost silly, but this is something special, a special feature of the path of devotion. Sri Ramakrishna is saying here, and this is another teaching we get very often, that let the rascal remain as the servant of God. So the sense of I is there, this ego sense, this ego allows us to identify with ourselves in all possible manners. When we introduce ourselves, if somebody says, please introduce yourself, what do we say? If the first thing we say is our career, then that's our sense of ego. If the first thing we say is that my country of origin, or my family name, all of these things, that's the thing that we most identify with. If somebody says, who are you? Say, I'm a member of the Benanza Society of Southern California. That'll be the first thing, the first piece of information that they want to convey. That's the thing that's more important to them. So there'll be some people who will say, who are you? Say, I am the self. I'm a jnani. I follow this path of knowledge. Then that's also the ego. It's also a part of this Maya. It's part of Maya, but it shows that that their sense of identification is not with this physical body and not with other things. If somebody says I'm a devotee, a sense of I, but it's really not how we introduce ourselves, how we think of ourselves, how we think of ourselves. And even if somebody asks, who am I? And I say, I'm a monk of the Ramakrishna order. This is also false identification from the point of view of the jnani. The only true answer is that I am that. Soham. For the jnani, that's the only real answer. Everything else is false identification. That I'm identifying with my role, the role that I'm playing in this lifetime. But it's a very wonderful type of identification. That's why it's a Vidya Maya, and it can help. And for Sri Ramakrishna, of course, even higher things. Who are you? I'm a child of the Divine Mother. I am a servant of God. This type of identification. It, in principle, it's the same as identifying with this physical body. I'm identifying with my country of origin. I'm identifying with the spiritual attitude that I have. So it shares in common this idea of identification with something external, superficial, but more important, more valuable. And one can keep us sunken in this world. The other can take us higher. So that's the Vidya Maya. So this is Thakur is making a slight distinction between the path of devotion and the path of knowledge. It's not a very strong distinction because the Jnani also does it. Jnani takes the help of this ego of knowledge. And we'll see that the further one goes in either path, the closer that they come. So he says, but a bhakta also attains the knowledge of oneness. So this is the goal of the path of knowledge, to realize there's an absolute oneness between lower self and the higher self, the individual soul and the supreme soul, that we're all there's a unity behind that, the real substance and essence of the self is the divine presence within. Same realization for all. But a bhakta also attains the knowledge of oneness. He sees that nothing exists but God. He does not regard the world as a dream, but says it is God himself who has become everything. In a wax garden, you may see various objects, but everything is made of wax. So the jnani actually practices a type of duality. Practices a type of duality in the beginning, where everything is broken down into two categories: that which is ultimately real, that which belongs to this consciousness, and that which is changing, and that which is superficial, and that which will drag us down. Everything is broken down. Sat, asat, vastu, avastu. All different terms are used. Nitya, nitya. So it's starting out from the point of view that we have these two different categories. So they're also going from dualism to non-dualism, from duality to oneness, but a different type of approach to it, because everything that is considered to be other than this ultimate reality is not given any real status. It'll disappear for them. So, yeah.
If anybody visualize trees, roads,
Yes.
everything made of wax. So once tree works, then he will get to be stuck with it. If somebody sees only wax, then only okay.
Yeah, this is of course it's coming up. This is the next sentence. So, but a bhakta also attains the knowledge of oneness. He sees that nothing exists but God. He does not regard the world as a dream, but says it is God himself who has become everything. In a wax garden, you may see various objects, that everything is made of wax. Now, this is a question that comes up. Those who study this mysticism, that the mystic will have a vision, seeing everything as spirit. Now, the question is it possible to see oneness and variety at the same time?
If the variety is then
But is it possible to see just wax without things made of wax? And if we see things made of wax, do we also see the wax part of it? So one school, there are different schools. One school will say that either you see the snake or the rope, you don't see both. That either you see it as a Brahman itself, or you see the covering. Now, for Sri Ramakrishna, he saw Somehow both together. Huh. Somehow. Now, of course, his mind will go higher and he won't see anything. Yeah, that's a different thing. But he would see the uh, the reality, and he would see the covering of it also somehow. Yeah. So this is what he's saying. If we see artificial fruit, and and we know that it's all made of one substance, but we'll still see the apples and the oranges and bananas and everything. And can we reach a state where we only see the pure substance? Not with these eyes open, really. That'll be a higher state. Huh? We go into some other state of consciousness. So let me just read this again, because the, we have to follow the train of thought of Sri Ramakrishna, how he develops these ideas. The Bhakta takes shelter under Vidya Maya. He seeks holy company. So that'll be part of Maya. But this is we can't get rid of this. This is the good thorn that takes out the bad thorn. We need all of these things. He seeks holy company, goes on pilgrimage, practices discrimination. So even the Jnani is using this Vidya Maya, devotion and renunciation. He says that since a man cannot easily get rid of his ego, he should let the rascal remain as the servant of God, the devotee of God. Okay, so this is the devotee. All different attitudes can be there. Can be a child of God, can be all different things. But a bhakta also attains the knowledge of oneness. So path is different. The goal is the same. He sees that nothing exists but God. He does not regard the world as a dream, but says that it is God himself who has become everything. The Jnani will say that we're seeing nothing but God, but there's a false covering over it that's not allowing us to know the true nature somehow. In a wax garden, you may see various objects, but everything is made of wax. But a man realizes this only when his devotion to God has matured. One gets jaundice when too much bile accumulates. Then one sees everything as yellow. From constantly meditating on Krishna, Radhika saw everything as Krishna. Moreover, she even felt that she herself had become Krishna. Of course, that was a rare thing for her. She preferred not to lose herself in that thought. They always wanted that relationship. If a piece of lead is kept in a lake of mercury a long time, it turns into mercury. The cockroach becomes motionless by constantly meditating on the kumira worm. It loses the power to move. These are examples from the Upanishads, a famous example. At last, it is transformed into a kumira. Similarly, by constantly meditating on God, the bhakta loses his ego. He realizes that God is he and he is God. So first the very tamasic and rajasic ego, that ego, the very earthbound ego, filled with passion, that has to be gradually transformed. It has to become a sattvic type of ego. Then that sattvic type of ego has to uh, form a relationship with God, that we superimpose this idea, or we utilize this idea, I'm a child of God, that I'm a servant of God, something like that. And then that ego will merge into the ego of the whatever our object of meditation is. That'll be the third step. That we will even lose that feeling of being a child of God, because whole mind is thinking of the mother. Whole mind is on the mother. I forget. How can I think that I'm even a child of God when I'm forgetting even my own existence? Mind gets so absorbed in the object of thought or meditation or love that it merges in it. That's the third step. Then the ego really will disappear and will be in that state of union. The Jnani will say oneness, the devotee, that state of union. As long as God retains the ego in a man, and Thakur says this ego remains, it doesn't go. It doesn't even the God realized soul that will have some sense of being an individual, huh? Some identification with the body, but not a binding type of identification. As long as God retains the ego in a man, he should establish a definite relationship with God, calling on him as master, mother, friend. This is what Thakur means by Vidya Maya. So we're taking this ego, which is normally thought to be an obstacle, and making it a help in spiritual life. He should establish a definite relationship with God, calling on him as master, mother, friend, or the like. I spent 1 year as a handmaid, the handmaid of the Divine Mother, the embodiment of Brahman. So this is another, all of these attitudes, spiritual attitudes, will have some paradigm. There'll be some early tradition from the Puranas and other scriptures describing the relationship of an ideal devotee, and very often with the avatar, and then later devotees will see what suits them. So, for example, with Sri Ramakrishna, he sees this Ram Prasad as an ideal, as a paradigm, and it appeals to him. This idea, this Ram Prasad, he looked upon himself as a child. That was his ego. He's a grown man, but somehow within, when he thinks of himself, he thinks of himself as a helpless child depending on the mother. That's his sense of I. So this becomes a paradigm. And if we want to think of ourselves as a child of the mother, then we go to these paradigms. So for the Dasya Bhava, for this attitude of being a servant, the highest ideal that we find in the scriptures is that of Hanuman to Rama. So the devotee will emulate, it's kind of role playing, this idea of aropkara, this idea to assume that attitude, to really make an effort to feel that, and the effort to feel that one is like Hanuman. For Sri Ramakrishna, it meant even hopping from place to place and eating fruits without peeling them, and climbing trees. And he really wanted to feel that he was a monkey, not any ordinary monkey, but because if he's identified with the Hanuman, then automatically he has that devotion to Rama as the master. So we find this also with those who were handmaids of the Divine Mother, that everything they did is another type of either Sakya Bhava, they're different relationship of a friend, a handmaid. So Sri Ramakrishna practiced all of these different attitudes and relationships of bhavas, all of them. So this was when he stayed with Mathur Babu in their residence, John Bazar residence. He said, I spent 1 year as a handmaid, the handmaid of the Divine Mother, the embodiment of Brahman. I used to dress myself as a woman. See, that we're so identified with male or female, with our gender, that this becomes a great obstacle, that we're always saying either men or women, and the reaction is different, relation to everything is different. How does one get rid of this idea? For Swamiji, it was tell yourself, I am the Atman. There's no gender or sex in the Atman. But this is other attitude, is if I can identify myself with a woman or a woman with a man, it doesn't matter, then we lose this sense of identification with this physical body. So for Sri Ramakrishna, he said that one can conquer lust by assuming the attitude of a woman. That if one is a woman, of course, no talk about same-sex things or anything like that. This is the same teaching can apply, of course. But if one is attracted to a woman or a woman to a man, and she can lose her sense of identification with her own physical body and gender and everything, then it'll help. I don't know if universally it works for everybody, but for Sri Ramakrishna. One must worship the Avidya Shakti. That means the primordial energy, the Divine Mother. She must be propitiated. And again, this goes back to the scriptures. The Chandi, we're always reading that when Mother is pleased, prasanna, when she's pleased, she'll grant boons. And if she alone has assumed all female forms. So this is another way. See, a little bit sad, and I don't like this idea, but most of the things that we read about in spiritual life were addressed to men for the sake of men. Women are a little bit second-class citizens with all of this. So all of the women, they have to translate it. That's all. All the things in principle work both ways. So this is talking about men. I think maybe the idea, whether true or not, is that men suffer from lust more than women do, and to seeing a female body, that the mind gets affected more. I don't know if it's true or not, but all of these things are ways to purify the mind and purify the vision that we have, and stop looking at for men to stop looking upon women as objects of enjoyment. One way to do that is to see that they're all special manifestations of the Divine Mother, and even to go so far, and this is mostly for monks also, to go so far as to feel that this is one's very own mother. What type of relationship do we have with our mother? A very pure type of loving relationship, to try to have that with all women. So this is, one must worship the Avidya Shakti, the primordial divine power, Divine Mother. She must be propitiated. She alone has assumed all female forms. So Thakur would say, Sita, Rama is all male forms, Sita all female forms. Therefore, I look on all women as mother. The attitude of looking on woman as mother is very pure. The Tantra mentions the Vamachara method also. The Vamachara, there's a footnote. Literally, it means left-handed path. According to this attitude, the aspirant seeks to conquer lust by fulfilling its urge. This all sorts of things are permitted in this Vamachara, and drinking and all sorts of things. And Swamiji hated this Brahmachara. Some of the letters that he wrote very, very strong. You people of Bengal, are you not ashamed of yourself, allowing these books to fall into the hands of your children and things like that? He felt it was really part of the main cause of the degeneration of society. And not that it was so popular, but it had a role to play. Does it still exist? I'm sure that Tibet and Nepal. Yeah, I would think that there's still in these some of these Bao traditions and Sahajiyas and all these, probably they're still there. Kartavajas, these sects. Yeah, I would think it's part of human nature. That those who have a great longing for sensual enjoyment will find cover for it. Sometimes they'll even convince themselves that there's something spiritual about it. Other times they'll just, this is the way to get around it. So society won't look down on them so much. Yeah, I think it's always been there, and will always be there. So the Tantra mentions the Vamachara method also, but that is not a good method. It causes the aspirant's downfall. A devotee keeping an object of enjoyment near him has reason to be afraid. So a Thakur, as much as he practiced all of these tantric things, that how to have absolute equanimity of mind in the midst of all sorts of temptations and things, his advice was the opposite. Don't put yourself in the midst of temptation. Yeah, that this is hedging around the small plant. Protect it. Protect yourself. And don't Don't ever think your mind has become so strong that you won't be tempted by anything. It may, of course, at some point, it may reach that stage, but very dangerous for one to start out with that idea. And this Alcoholics Anonymous. They're very, very particular. You keep away from. Don't go to parties where people are drinking. Don't ever think that your mind is strong enough that you're safe from those things. The other attitude that some will have is, I'll always keep a bottle of alcohol at home, just to show that I'm strong and I won't be tempted by it. A little bit foolhardy. Some may be able to do it, but we never know. So Thakur always telling us in the beginning, especially, that be very cautious about putting ourselves in the midst of temptation, have good company, lead a wholesome type of life. This is a way to protect ourselves. Looking on woman as mother is like fasting on the Ekadashi day. Again, this is for men especially. Looking on the women can do the same thing. Look upon every man as Shiva himself. However you want to think of it. Fasting on the Ekadashi day without touching even a drop of water. So nirjala upavas. There are different ways of observing this fast.
Women also practice this.
Women do it much more than men. No, most of fasting in India is women. And the crazy thing is half the time they're doing it for the sake of their husbands who can't do it. Right? Yeah. They're very unfair. It is. Yeah. You think about it, very unfair. It works. Right? I don't know if it helps the man, but it's good for the woman. Yeah.
But even widowed women,
Yeah.
my mother practiced throughout her life.
The widows in India, especially Brahmin widows, they had to lead a very, very life of extreme renunciation. There's a lot of fasting and of course strict vegetarian and also clothes. They can't wear any. And it was again, I hate to say it, but it was mostly with men in mind. That let them wear plain white, nothing that will be attractive to men. Because there was always this feeling that these, especially young child widows, were very vulnerable and were also used. Yeah, they were horrible things. There was that one film, Water, by the Nair. What is her name? Meera Nair. Was that her name? Yeah. About the plight of these child widows, and it was really something horrible. Men, they get married again. Yeah, no harm. Who cares? Yeah, but women, they have to be all these restrictions and everything. But every religion and every culture has been like this. Yeah. We're trying to make it less and less. We're trying to get rid of these things. But anyhow, Thakur is talking to men, so there's nothing prejudicial about any of this. This is the advice he's giving to them. Looking on woman as mother is like fasting on the Ekadashi day without touching even a drop of water. In this attitude, there's not the slightest trace of sensual enjoyment. Another way of observing the Ekadashi allows the taking of fruit and the like. One can also observe the day by eating luchi and curries. Yeah, when I first heard that people, they would come here sometimes and they would be taking fruit or something. I'd say, well, oh, won't you eat? They say, no, I'm fasting today. Now I'm thinking, you're eating and fasting. How is that possible? We don't have that concept here. Fasting means nothing. Yeah. If you're taking water, okay, you're compromising a little bit. It's okay, but certainly not food or anything. So when I heard that somebody, today I can't take fish, so it's kind of fast. Yeah, or no rice. The Bengalis, you don't take rice, you're fasting. So all different ways of doing it. Yeah. Even at the time of sannyasa, we're supposed to observe a full fast. There'll be drinks and fruit and things for those who can't do it. And yeah, everything. It's okay. Don't worry about it.
Little rice and fish.
Little rice and fish. Yeah, no harm. Huh? No, that'll be
Unless you're
the one thing that you can't do if you want to fast, but you can do everything else. So one can also observe the day by eating luchi and curries. But my attitude is not to touch even a drop of water while I observe the fast. Now he's talking, of course, metaphorically, not that he observed fasts or anything. That means that uh, uh, he led a life of perfect renunciation. Perfect renunciation. I worship the Shodashi. This is a form of the Divine Mother as a 16-year-old girl. This, of course, he did when he worshipped Holy Mother. I looked on all parts of her body as those of my mother. This attitude of regarding God as mother is the last word in sadhana. O God, thou art my mother and I am thy child. This is the last word in spirituality. Now, Thakur, he would always say everyone can have a different spiritual attitude, but he had some special reverence for this, what he called Shantan Bhav, looking upon God as mother. Because if we look upon ourselves as children, then there's that innocence of the child. Child doesn't know anything about his relations, husband and wife relations and everything, so there's a certain innocence there. The sannyasi's way of living is like observing the Ekadashi fast without taking even a drop of water. If he clings to enjoyment, then he has reason to be afraid. Lust and gold is enjoyment. If a monk enjoys it, he is swallowing his own spittle, as it were. Yeah, he gives this example. You spit something out, then you pick it up and eat it again. That those who have renounced one time, and it is very strong. But in India, here we have many that they'll take to the life of a monk. It won't suit them, and they'll leave and they'll get married, and it's not such a big deal. In India, fallen sannyasin, there's no place in society, at least traditionally. There's no family will give a daughter in marriage to someone who was a sannyasin and then gave up the vows. A very strong type of thing. There are different kinds of enjoyment: money, wealth, name, fame, and sense pleasures. It is not good for a sannyasi. This is the strict rules of sannyasa he's talking about now. Not good for a sannyasi to sit in the company of a woman devotee or even to talk to her. This injures him and others as well. Then others cannot learn from him. He cannot set an example to humanity. A sannyasi keeps his body in order to teach mankind. Yeah, now this is mostly, as I say, traditional sannyasins, but especially to not do anything in private. We many times will see that if in India there's a monk talking to a woman devotee, even it'll be in the open. They won't go to a room and shut a door or anything like that, or they'll make sure some other monk is there. Just both for their own sake and also to set an example. I'm going to skip this paragraph. He talks about there are different types of sexual intercourse, he says, for the monks. There's different ways, even talking to them and other things. Then he says, but the case is quite different with householders. So no need to be overly puritanical with all of these things. After the birth of one or two children, the husband and wife should live as a brother and sister. The other 7 kinds of sexual intercourse do not injure them much. Now, live as brother and sister. There has to be a very highest type of a devotee couple, and it has to be very mutually understood. And I don't know what to say about these things. Thakur's father. Look at the age that he was at when there was a child after he was born, and also later. Girish also later. So how much this was actually followed, even by these great souls. So if any husband and wife want to do that, they have to be very high caliber, and it has to be something equally accepted by both. A householder has various debts to the gods, to the fathers, and to the rishis. There are actually 5 different things. This is also a very classic thing. He also owes a debt to his wife. He should make her the mother of 1 or 2 children and support her if she is a chaste woman. Householders do not know who is a good wife and who is a bad wife, who is a Vidya Shakti and who is an Avidya Shakti. Householders. Now he's just talking about in general. And really, if the things that Thakur says is like even these great devotees, that these Krishna Kishore others, he said the wife says stand up, they stand up. She says sit down, and he says they all think, oh, my wife is wonderful.
Don't work anymore.
So when he says householders, he probably means most married men. Householders do not know who is a good wife and who is a bad wife, who is a Vidya Shakti and who is an Avidya Shakti. A Vidya Shakti. So this is, again, we have to remember these terms. This is someone who will help raise, will help lift herself and the husband both in spiritual life. A Vidya Shakti, a good wife, has very little lust and anger. She sleeps little. She pushes her husband's head away from her. She is full of affection, kindness, devotion, modesty, and other noble qualities. Such a wife serves all, looking on all men as her children. So, same thing. Just as men look upon all women as mother, she looks upon all men as her child. See the difference in the relationships. Huh? Because the son, at least in Indian context, the son has the greatest devotion to the mother. Huh? And the mother has the greatest devotion to the child. So this is very nice that the man will look upon all women as his mother, and the wife will look upon all men as her children. Nice. Further, she helps increase her husband's love of God. She doesn't spend much money, lest her husband should have to work hard and thus not get leisure to think of God. Mannish women have different traits. These are bad traits: squint eyes and hollow eyes, cat-like eyes, lantern jaws, like a calf's, and pigeon breasts. Girish, what is the way for people like us? Okay, he's going to get things back on track a little bit. People like us means householders or people in the world, people with jobs, people who have to deal with all the problems of life. What is the way for people like us? Master, Bhakti is the one essential thing. Yeah, Bhakti Shar. This is the path of, so devotion. The path of knowledge is never fully recommended for the householder. There are exceptions, of course. But the householder is expected to develop some type of spiritual attitude and relationship and follow this path of devotion. Not that the householder should ignore all of these beautiful Vedantic truths and this path of knowledge, but it's exclusive following of the path of knowledge, which doesn't allow devotion, which doesn't rely on the idea of a personal God or avatar. It's very difficult for everybody. So bhakti is the only essential thing. Bhakti has different aspects: the sattvic, the rajasic, and the tamasic. So the sattvic, this is the purest of all of them. Rajasic is for people who are very outgoing and a little bit aggressive and dominating and ambitious. Tamasic is for those couch potatoes. They have no energy or interest in doing anything, and are a little bit prone to anger and losing their temper and things like that. But all of people with all of these traits can utilize them in spiritual life. This is the point he's making. One who has sattvic bhakti is very modest and humble, but a man with tamasic bhakti is like a highwayman in his attitude towards God. He says, "Oh God, I am chanting your name. How can I be a sinner? Oh God, you are my own mother. You must reveal yourself to me." So forces demands. Then Girish said, smiling, "It is you, sir, who teach us tamasic bhakti," and it's true. He liked this idea. Even when he had his first vision of Mother Kali, he utilized this. "Mother, reveal yourself to me or I'll kill myself." Ready to take the sword. He's ready to take the sword and cut his throat. And then she revealed herself.
Extreme.
Extreme. It's extreme. And we can't fake it. It's only for people of that very heroic type of nature who have these types of tendencies. Master smiling. There are certain signs of God vision. When a man sees God, he goes into samadhi. There are 5 kinds of samadhi. First, he feels the mahavayu, the great wind. It really means kundalini, that energy. He feels the mahavayu rise like an ant crawling up. Second, he feels it rise like a fish swimming in the water. Third, he feels it rise like a snake wriggling along. Fourth, he feels it rise like birds flying from one branch to another. Fifth, he feels it rise like a monkey making a big jump. The Mahavayu reaches the head with one jump, as it were, and samadhi follows. So this is something that Thakur says he heard from, I think, Sadhu and Rishikesh, the young Sadhu, but something that he experienced in his own life. Every time he quotes somebody, it's not just that somebody else said it, that he's happy to hear it because he also experienced it. And he felt all these different types, depending on the different type of sadhana he was practicing or what his attitude was at the time. There are 2 other kinds of samadhi. First, the sthita samadhi, when the aspirant totally loses outer consciousness. This will be like our nirvikalpa samadhi. He remains in that state a long time. It may be for many days. For Thakur, it was months. Second, the unmana samadhi. It is to withdraw the mind suddenly from all sense objects and unite it with God. Thakur says in another place that this one can come down from this type of samadhi. Go up quickly, come down also. Like the mongoose with a brick tied to its tail. To M, do you understand this? M, yes, sir. Girish, can one realize God by sadhana? Sadhana, spiritual practice. Can one realize God by spiritual practice? Master, people have realized God in various ways. Some through much austerity, worship, and devotion. They have attained perfection through their own efforts. Now, Thakur normally, very often, he'll say that through all of this, through all this great effort, austerity, worship, through all of this, grace will come. So somehow grace is necessary for all of them. But the main point here is that we put forth a lot of effort. And Thakur he encouraged everybody. He said, you have to work hard. You have to do your spiritual practice. So that's one type. Then he says, some are born perfect, Nitya Siddha. They just have to shake off a little of this Maya, the dust of Maya. Some are born perfect, as, for example, Narada and Shukadeva. They are called Nitya Siddha, eternally perfect. There are also those who have attained perfection all of a sudden, Hortat Siddha. They'll stumble across it somehow. It is like a man's unexpectedly coming into a great fortune. Again, there are instances of people realizing God in a dream and by divine grace. I would say all of them. Divine grace will cover all of them. Now, what about dream? Huh? And what about spiritual dreams and things like that? How do we understand and why some dreams we can say are strictly psychological things? We can trace it back to some experiences and everything. And some we feel are spiritual dreams. Or in meditation, some things will know that it's just imagination is working, and some things we'll feel are visions. Uh, How do we explain these things? This idea came into my mind when uh, I was giving that talk on meditation, and this idea of diving deep. If we think of this ocean of consciousness, we think of this mind as the surface. uh, Then we go a little bit deeper, we get to that psychological level. We go a little bit deeper, and we get to this realm of imagination and all of that. We go a little bit deeper, we get into this cosmic mind. Uh, and so some things will bubble up from the subconscious mind into our dream and other things, but some things can come from the depths of the mind. Will be that cosmic mind, and where we, if we think we dive deep, that we'll start to get into that realm where we can see that all these visions and things, these gods and goddesses, that they're dwelling within this cosmic mind. Now there'll be other ways of understanding it, but this is one thing that uh, resonated with me. It gives me a little context to understand how there can be a spiritual dream. It's coming from a deeper place, not just the depths of our psychological mind, but that cosmic mind somehow underlying. So they're not two separate things underlying it. uh, It just, we go deeper down in the. All of us have our little area of this ocean. When we go, everything starts to mingle. The individual mind, cosmic mind start to mingle, and then we get to that cosmic mind, and then we get to that pure consciousness at the ground. This is a play of the finite and the infinite. This is the mind, is this human mind that's grounded in this cosmic mind, which is grounded in pure consciousness. So it's both. That's why Thakur always says there's nirguna saguna. They're not two separate things. It's both. There's realm of saguna Brahman. But we can get to the very depth of the ocean. And then we can get to that place where you don't see anything. You don't hear anything. Just black. The void, dense darkness, mother. That idea. Saying this, Ramakrishna sang, intoxicated with divine fervor. Can everyone have the vision of Shama? It's Kali's treasure for everyone. Oh, what a pity my foolish mind will not see what is true. The Sri Ramakrishna remained in ecstasy a few moments. Girish and the other devotees were seated before him. A few days earlier, Girish had been very rude to the master, probably drunk. That was, normally when he showed up, if he hadn't been drinking, he'll show the greatest type of devotion. If he's drinking, then he can really, uh, yeah. Why do you hide yourself from me? Why do you don't allow me to serve you? Uh, Tell us who you really are, or I'll thrash it out of you. He can really, all is somehow manifestation of his devotion, but under the influence of alcohol. He was a drunkard at that time.
Abusing.
Yeah. Girish and the other devotees, a few days earlier, Girish had been very rude to the master at the Star Theater, but now he was in a calm state of mind. Master, to Girish, this mood of yours is very good. It is peaceful. I prayed about you to the Divine Mother. Oh, Mother, make him peaceful so that he won't abuse me. But Thakur, he never took it personally. Sometimes Girish would come drunk, and two of them would get up and start dancing together, holding hands and going in a circle and everything. Thakur liked drunkards. Drunkards reminded him of that intoxicated state. Yeah, he would see them on the street. Karun. Mahakarun. Yes, yeah. The word that they use for this the wine that they drink in these tantric circles and things is karana. So he would say, yes, it reminds you of the cause of the universe. But other than that, this intoxicated state, we even use that language. We're very limited in our way of understanding that state of ecstasy where one is mad for God. And it's really this unmada. It's the mada is a word for wine. Mada. It's all related. So traditionally, one way of trying to understand is drunk with love of God. This idea of drunkenness. It's always been associated with the mind in some higher state. Girish to him. I feel as if someone were pressing my tongue. I can't talk. Thakur used to use that same phrase very often. Sri Ramakrishna was still in an indrawn mood. He seemed to be gradually forgetting the man and the objects around him. He tried to bring his mind down to the relative world. He looked at the devotees. Looking at M, he said, they all come to Dakshineshwar. Let them. Mother knows everything. To a young man of the neighborhood, he said, hello, what do you think? What is the duty of man? All sat in silence. To Narayan, he said, don't you want to pass the examinations? But my dear child, a man freed from bondage is Shiva. Entangled in bondage, he is Jiva. Sri Ramakrishna was still in a god-intoxicated mood. There was a glass of water near him. He drank the water. He said to himself, why, I've drunk water in this mood. It was not yet dusk. Sri Ramakrishna was talking to Atul, who was seated in front of him. Atul was Girish's brother and a lawyer of the High Court of Calcutta. A Brahmin neighbor was also seated near him. Okay, we'll stop here because we begin a new conversation about duties in the world. So we're now in the middle of page 703. We can stop here. Om Niranjanam Nityamanantarupam Bhaktanukam Bhathurata Vikraham Vai Yeshavataram Parameshamidhyam Tam Ramakrishnam Shirasa Namah. We bow our heads before Sri Ramakrishna, who is stainless, of infinite nature, whose heart melts in sympathy for his devotees, who is an embodiment of the divine and the Supreme Lord, and ever worthy of our worship. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. Okay, thank you, everyone. We will see you all next time.